love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Go ahead and have a seat.
Hey, before we continue our regularly scheduled gathering, I want to invite you guys to go do something reckless with me. I'm going to prison this fall. You should come with me. It's going to be great. Zach and I had the opportunity last fall to go and participate in a ministry inside a prison where basically you spend a weekend, you spend a day with dads, and then you spend a day bringing their kids to come and see them in the prison. Very, very, very special day. I don't use the term life-changing very much. I truly don't. But this is one of those life-changing ministry mission kind of experiences. And I would love for you guys to come with me, September 13 and 14. I could kind of tell you about my experience, but the easier thing would be to show you kind of what it looks like. So take a look at this.
The children of prisoners, the silent victims of incarceration, getting a rare opportunity, a chance to spend a single day with their fathers in prison.
8-year-old Arkinia Graham has never met her father. They've grown close over the phone, but Johnny Trey Williams is serving 23 years in prison for second-degree murder.
I'm excited to see you, and I'm nervous.
Today, she and nearly 30 other kids are getting a special visit with their dads, designed to prevent the kind of damage kids suffer when a parent is in prison.
Like, they're gonna have so much fun. Yes.
They are just some of the nearly 3 million children in this country with a mom or dad behind bars.
What are you feeling?
Anticipation. I'm trying to hold my hand at the top. I'm shaking.
As nervous as any father getting to hold his daughter for the very first time.
She brought something for you, too.
What's your for?
Hello, Daddy. I really wish when I come to see you that you could come home with me. I love you so much.
I love you too.
But this quiet moment is just a preview of what will be a very special day.
Okay.
The next morning, as excitement builds in this humble prison gym,
Boys and girls, they're coming in just a minute.
the dads are announced one by one. Ethan hasn't seen his dad in 7 months. His pent-up emotions bubbling over. Arkinia doesn't hesitate. Her father, no longer just a voice on the phone. For Amaya, all her anguish and her doubt vanishes.
I miss you guys. I love you.
Jeremiah says he's working hard to stay out of trouble behind bars to earn this day with his kids. Amen. There are 1,300 men in this prison. Only 20 of them are here today. Shakisha Graham has a powerful reason for bringing her daughter from Florida to Michigan for this chance to bond with her dad.
You work 12 hours a day.
Yes.
You're a single mom.
Yes, ma'am.
Why spend so much of your hard-earned money to bring your daughter here?
Well, I was one of those kids. I was ashamed to tell people that my father is in prison. So I put myself in my daughter's shoes.
They have these few fleeting hours to say the things that need saying. So much loaded in one day. For the dads, a pledge to strive to be better. For the kids, a precious dose of what they need most. And for the rest of us, a reminder of what it means to be a good dad. And that the feeling of being embraced by your father can last forever. For Nightline, I'm Juju Chang in Muskegon, Michigan.
Well, good morning, everyone. We're so glad you're here to gather with us today. My name's Jesse, if we've never met before, and yeah, we're happy you're here. As that video talked about, and as Jeff mentioned, that is an awesome day coming up this September, the 13th and 14th, And if you would like more information or want to sign up to give both days, one day, whatever works with your schedule, you can find all that information on wm.church. And there is also a much longer video. That was only 3 minutes of a 10-minute video. So if you want another 7 minutes of emotional crying, watch it. I'm probably going to watch it later. We can all watch it together. We're a faith family. We laugh together, we cry together, right? So you can find out more information on that at wm.church. And it's an awesome, life-changing experience, like Jeff mentioned. Another life-changing thing happening for us as a faith family is baptisms. Next Sunday, 10 p.m., not p.m., 10 p.m. would be dark. 10 a.m. when church happens. Next Sunday, 10 a.m. at the Grand Haven State Park, we're going to be meeting on the south side, and you can come and celebrate with us as we watch members of our faith family join us in resurrection life and new life in Jesus. If you want more information on that, you can also go to wm.church for more information on it. I said that twice, but whatever. So a great time to do that is this next time we're entering, called Life Together. Life Together is a time where you can get cookies, you can get whatever snacks are back there. There were blueberries. I don't know if they all got nabbed, but you might want to run if you like blueberries. There's coffee, there's water. You can worship God through giving at one of our giving areas. If you're a kiddo who goes to Surf City, now's your time to skedaddle back there and have a lot more fun back there in Surf City. You can also, if you're new, you can come and talk to us at the welcome area. We'd love to get to know you, and we have a gift for you if you are new. If you've been here before, your gift is our presence. Otherwise, we'll call you back up in 5 to 7 minutes. Thanks.
righty. How are we all doing? That's when you say, good. Unless you're not doing good, then it's okay if you're not. Glad to have you here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve Durr. I'm one of the pastors, a part of our faith family here. And I'm excited today because we're doing this good news series we're calling Beautiful Feet. And you might be like, what in the world? Why beautiful feet? If you look in the Bible, in Romans chapter 10, it says that the scriptures say how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. How beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. And that good news is bringing Jesus. It's bringing the truth, the life, the hope, the relationship, the news, the announcement that Jesus is King, and we find new life and new hope in him. So when you do that, when you share the good news of Jesus, you've got beautiful feet. So we've been talking about that as a faith family. But not only are we called to share the good news, to tell our story, to tell how we've encountered Jesus, if you've done that, if you've experienced that, not only do we do that, we also want to be good news. And there's a passage in the Bible, there's a guy named Paul who helped start these churches, and then he wrote letters to them. And in one place in particular, he wanted them to know how much he just cared for them. And he had beautiful feet and shared the good news of Jesus, but he shared more. So in 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 8, it says this. He wrote this. He wrote, "We loved you so much that we shared with you not only God's good news." We shared Jesus with you, yes, but we shared our own lives as well. We loved you so much that not only did we share the good news of Jesus with you, we shared our very lives. We shared our lives with you. And so what does it look like to share your life and to be good news in relationship with other people, especially in another place? Now, we talked about that earlier when you saw that Cry Fest video just a little while ago, right? Powerful of being present with people and being good news in critical moments like that, whether it's at a prison in Muskegon, in your neighborhood, or across the world. So Watermark has built partnerships globally, and that's what we want to focus on today, in different places of the world. And one new partnership we have is in Ethiopia. And we want to talk about one particular partnership we have in Ethiopia that's in the rural south, and it's called Shone Gerbe. And many of you have kind of reached out and said, I want to be a sponsor to a child, or I want to have a friendship with a child, and you regularly have begun to help that child and that family through your financial support and beginning that relationship. So the team here of Watermarkers went down to Shone, traveled south from the main city of Addis, went in the rural south, and in this area got to connect with and build relationships with the care point there and the people that we're building relationships with. So why don't we, to start us off here a little bit, Bob, why don't you give us a little picture? We're going to go to the landscape photos. Rob, just give us a little picture of what it's like there.
So I was not prepared for it to look quite so much like a National Geographic special. I guess I kind of always figured National Geographic looked long and hard to find a picture, where they could film a kid with a donkey cart covered in sticks and that kind of thing, or people filling up jugs of water on the side of the road. But we saw all that everywhere, all the time. The countryside was very wide open. We drove through kind of these open plains through the Rift Valley, big wide open plains, and then on either side of those towering mountains. Just beautiful. Lots of stick and mud homes with thatched roofs, and as you can see, there's cattle and donkeys.
This is rush hour.
Yeah.
This is on the highway.
This is the major north-south highway.
So that's good. Awesome. That's awesome. Now, John, tell us a little bit about you've gotten on this road, you've got past all the livestock, you made it there. You have to go relatively slow because you got to stop along the way for donkeys and such. You make it to the care point in Shone. What's there on the site? Because we talk about this care point, but what does it look like? What do we see behind us here?
So at the care point, you're greeted. You go through this gate, and you are greeted in this green field area. It's about maybe 3 to 5 acres. roughly, and there's several buildings on the compound there. So that one is the main office building. So each care point through Hope Chest has got 3 employees: the care point director, a financial director, and a social worker. And their offices are in the green part off to the right of that building. And there's 2 more offices or rooms in that building off to in the center and off to the left, where they do Bible study, discipleship classes, and where the income generating activity groups that you'll hear about in a minute, where they meet. Also on the compound is another office building where they do other classes, Bible studies, music lessons, and so forth. But there's also a church building. So when we did our launch back a few months ago, the little sculpture back there that I built, I modeled that after the original church. So there's the church building today. When we were there in December, it didn't have any mud on it. It didn't have the stone foundation, and that's where I kind of got that model from, to display the pictures of the children's for us to start our friendship with. But when we went there this time, the church building has continued to improve. They were able to mud the sides. They were able to do the stone foundation. It was a really cool place to spend our week with the kids there.
That's awesome. And in fact, Keegan, can you go to number 7? There's a little video. You got to put up the volume. This is the 3 leaders at the care point giving greetings to us. I don't know if you can go to number 7. If that's a video, it says leaders. Here we go.
Thank you, Watermark Church, for visiting us, for supporting us. Thank you very much. We love you.
There you go. These are the 3 guys who lead. The director on the way left, in the middle is the social worker, and on the way right is the accountant. And these are the folks that we, through our sponsorships, through our friendships, these guys are from that area and supported, and they do all that work there on site and work with other people with that. So that's kind of the compound area. And the whole goal of this trip is to build relationships. So Tracy, who were you guys building relationships with?
We built relationships with the children.
Number 3.
That came to the care point to see us every day. And then every afternoon we spent time with different adults. And there were a lot of adults just in the compound, so we were able to engage with them in ways that we didn't even expect. And in fact, I think, as Emily will explain later, we were able to have fun and play with them. And definitely there was always laughter.
That's awesome. And Brenda, what did you guys do? I mean, how do you build relationships with these kids? There's 149 kids who are kind of connected to that care point at that time, and it's 5 of you. How did you every day connect with these kids and these adults?
So they broke the kids up into groups of about 30 or 40 that we met with each day. And they had asked us to teach about how big God is and about God's creation, and also about just some simple hygiene and malaria and malaria prevention, and then also just the importance of clean water. So we would have a teaching time. We included some crafts, some activities to kind of solidify some of those concepts that we were teaching them. And then every day we had time of games, and that's where it was just fun to further involve not just the kids, but also the guardians and parents that were around too. And we had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, and I know that struck you, Emily, a little bit about the adults getting engaged, because it's easy for the kids always to get involved right away, but the adults hang back a little bit. Talk a little bit about that.
So there were adults around every day, and they were really just open hands. They just wanted to help us in any way they can. They were totally excited to see us there and engaging with the kids. But when we started, we would do like our lessons for the day, and then after that we would play games, and some of them would start joining in. But when we moved outside, so we had more space for the games, there were a lot of adults. We have no idea where they came from. They were just everywhere.
They just showed up.
Yeah, some of them were ready to look like sing choir. We didn't know what was going on, but they would be all smiling and just watching us. And so if you just come and join us, that's all it took. And they would come and join, and they would be like, there was a game where we were counting in English, and they started counting in English, and then they would count in Amharic or their native language, and then we would try to do that. So there was just a lot of back and forth with the adults just engaging and laughing and hugging, and we didn't even know what we were laughing about half the time. But
it was usually about you.
It probably was. So just a lot of fun. I was just really surprised by the adults who really wanted to engage with us in every aspect every day we were there.
Right. Bob, you're a science teacher at West Ottawa High School, and they asked us to teach them some things, and they gave us the agenda a little bit, like Brenda said here about God being big and God's creation, but they also asked for some practical things as well. What are some things that you taught, and how did you go about that?
So they asked me specifically to teach about clean water and the importance of clean water and malaria prevention. If you were to walk out of the care point and kind of down to the end of the driveway and look to the left, it's the countryside. I mean, it's farmlands. There's going to be people out there tilling fields with oxen. If you look to the right, it's the town, and you're going to see just little kiosks and shops and dozens of little mopeds and things like that all over the place. So the care point's right on the edge of town, and the people in the community, for the most part, they don't have any access to clean water. We saw people filling water jugs in mud puddles and rivers, and that's what they drink and cook with and everything else. So what I did was I took a microscope with me, a little antique thing that worked with some mirrors, so it didn't need electricity, and I grabbed a sample of water from one of the mud puddles that they were drinking from and put it up under the microscope, and the kids could all go around and look through there, and they could see a variety of different little creepy crawlies. And we talked about the parasites and the different things like that they would be getting in the dirty water. One of the concerns they had there was that the clean water point, there was one just recently installed, and it's about a half a mile away, kind of out in the country down a little trail. And that was actually done with Hope Chest money to bring in this clean water source. But there's a big concern that people won't go to it, that they won't make the extra effort to walk a little extra distance to fill up their jugs at that. So hopefully showing them what's in the water will encourage them to make use of this clean water source. The other thing was malaria. Malaria is the #1 killer in the world. And it's a disease spread from person to person through mosquitoes. So we talked about the importance of limiting mosquito habitat, draining things that would potentially have stagnant water, filling in mud puddles in their compounds or draining them away and those kind of things, covering their windows at night.
That's good. So some practical things they wanted to help their people. And Bob, being a great teacher, didn't just settle to tell them. He wanted to show them how it works. And so he took on a new nickname of identity of Mosquito Bob. So we're going to see a lesson of his. Let's turn the volume up to get an idea of what it's like. Now, there's 2 translators they got to go through. So, all right, so let's watch this video. Got an artery. That's good. Let's give it up for Bob. That's awesome.
The double translation was interesting because I would say 1 sentence, the next guy would say 3 sentences, and the next guy would talk for 45 minutes.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Brenda, I mean, we've talked about the care point's there for a reason. There are some deep needs. And although they have much to, offer and teach us, there are some deep poverty needs there, destitution financially. Give us a little picture of what you saw just, in the area of poverty, I guess, what you experienced there.
Sure, that these were definitely, there was a lot of kids that were just in rags, shirts with several gaping holes in them, no shoes. Now, some kids did have some dirty clothes that didn't have any holes in them. Some kids did have some shoes. But certainly there was a lot of kids kind of underdressed and barely dressed, and as mentioned earlier, just the dirty water. I was thinking about the color of this wood behind us, and so yeah, basic needs are not being met there for sure.
And so Tracy, for you saw these great needs around you with these kids, but then at the same time you were amazed at their faith, the families, their faith in God in the midst of that deep poverty. Explain a little bit about what you learned about that community.
when we had the opportunity to meet with community leaders and talk to them about different projects we could help financially fund moving forward. One on their list was perhaps water in the compound, or they could build a bathroom with a shower in it. And in that moment, I realized, in my privileged American way, it didn't occur to me that they didn't have access to a shower, which may sound dumb, but I had never thought of access to water and a bathroom being a privilege before this trip. It was just a right. It's just something that we always have. And in the midst of all this, when we met with the income generating group, I'm not sure how it came up, but they expressed, when we talked about tithing, did you ask?
Who brings up that?
One of us, someone.
John.
It was a unanimous answer.
Like the idea of giving, for those of you guys who don't know,
Yeah.
like the idea of giving first to God a portion of what he's entrusted you. So.
Yeah, and that it was a unanimous with this group of 15 people that said yes, and there was a lot of pointing at heaven and saying, yes, our first goes back to God. He's our provider.
Wow. So just trusting God to be their provider in the midst of great poverty. John, what did you experience there? Did you feel welcomed? Were people standoffish? What are the people like that you encountered?
Yeah, so I kind of maybe got into it a little bit when I described the care point, but when we went there, all 150 kids were there the first day. When we pulled into the care point, it was a wonderful welcome with all the kids, all the staff, and a bunch of the parents and guardians and different community leaders. But from that moment throughout the entire week, it was just such an expression of joy every moment that we were with these people and with these kids. When I think back at the time we were there, it was just joy-filled. I mean, and I don't mean to, just to use the word joy just flippantly. It was true joy that they were able to express to us in their faith and with their families and just with us being there. So it was a welcome with open arms physically every day. We expect embraces, and it was just wonderful. It was a feeling of community. It was a feeling of love and welcoming.
It's awesome. We'll go to number 5, Rob. To pass it down to Emily. You did a community day where the kids' parents and the church folk showed up and had a bit of a party with you. And not only did we share things with them, or the team here shared things with them that they wanted to learn, they were teaching us things as well. So what are some of the things you learned, and what was that experience like, that community day?
So this was in the afternoon one day. We knew that parents and guardians would be coming. And so we just asked, because it was taking a long time for them to get there, do they know when they're coming? Do they know what they're here for? And they're like, no, we just told them to come. And so they came, and there were some other people there that were preparing for a coffee ceremony, which is traditional there, where they roast beans and make coffee, and they make popcorn, and they brought these big giant loaves of bread in. And so we watched that whole process happening, and we didn't realize that we were going to be cutting these giant loaves of bread and then offering them to everybody. So we got to participate in that, which was awesome. And Bob also got to teach about malaria and clean water, and so it was really cool to just kind of look out and see that these adults were fully engaged in the teaching and learning. And then after that, we all just kind of started, the movement was outside. Nobody really knew what was happening, but we just follow outside. And they had a few different stations set up where we could make false bread flour injera, which is kind of like a pancake that they use almost like a fork and spoon to eat with. And there was something else, I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, that's
like
what
a
these
cornbread,
pictures
right?
are. Yeah. The cool thing about it is that they just offered, if you would like to try, the women are here and would love to teach you how to do this. And so Tracy and Brenda and I jumped right in and started learning. The cool part about it is after we kind of moved on to another station, Bob had been working with some adults, kind of showing them how to use the microscope, and he came in, didn't really know even what was going on, and there's Bob. He started doing it, And so then after Bob did it, then John joined in, who was taking pictures and stuff, so he really wasn't planning, but he ended up joining in. Well, after our men joined in, men from the community started jumping in and wanted to see how to do it. And it's very unheard of for the men to be doing that. So they definitely took the lead from Bob and John. And it was just the most fun, just people laughing, clapping, cheering each other on. But really, just those men who stepped out of their culture to do what we were doing, even though we were doing what they were doing. It was just really cool, and Tracy was laughing hysterically for probably an hour about just all the madness that was happening, and she was like, "This is the best day ever." And
even though they were putting food in your face.
Yes.
And yeah. All right,
but it truly was.
Yeah, it's good. There it is. Culturally, that's a way of showing love, and it's you have food and you feed your friend, which as a germphobe, that I'm not really cool with that. But all of a sudden, it's like, I got to use the restroom. Sorry.
I don't know if any of us
just
were
like
cool
the
with
same
that.
time when it's time to clean up, I always magically have to go then. But so Bob, with the Care Point there, so you had this incredible day, but then the Care Point has, we're doing this sponsorship friendship thing with these young people and these families, but they also work with these adults to pull them together to help them be successful and kind of break out of poverty. It's not just a handout, it's like a hand up type thing. And they're called IGAs, income generating activities, and they're training, our Care Point's training people. Give us a real quick snapshot of what that looks like and maybe one success story from it.
So what they do, the 150 families that are represented at the Care Point, those families have the opportunity to join one of these IGA groups, which are going to be comprised of 15 families each. To join, what they have to do is they have to, for 6 months, they have to demonstrate that they can save money on a weekly basis. Doesn't have to be much, could be pennies, but they have to do it solid for 6 months. After they've done that, the Care Point then pays for them to go through a training process, and that training is entrepreneurship, it's savings, it's kind of a Dave Ramsey kind of a thing, and it costs money. It's sponsored by the Ethiopian government, but the Care Point pays for it for the families who have demonstrated their commitment. Then after that, they qualify for seed loan startup money through the Care Point. They can borrow what for us would be the equivalent of a few $100 to start some kind of a business opportunity for themselves. And we had like 6 or 7 different people speak, but one that stood out, this guy used it'd be about just a few $100 to start up a kiosk where he would sell honey. And he went from profiting just a couple of burr per day, like 2 to 12 to 75 burr per day, and 75 burr is like $2. So then over the course of just 11 months, his business has taken off to the point where he's managed to save over 11,000 burr. He's paid back most of his startup loan, faithfully paying back 300 burr a month on the original startup loan. And he's made enough money that he's actually, his desire is to remove his children from Hope Chest and the Care Point and sponsor different children to take his kids' place.
Wow. I mean, this guy, he's bettering himself, and now he's going to seek to help have his own.
Yeah, prior to this, he was a day laborer, and we saw these people. What they would basically do is early in the morning, these men would just go and stand along the side of the street downtown, and they would just stand there and hope somebody would come along and ask them to dig or to plant or to harvest or to do something for the day. And he went from barely feeding his family on a daily basis to running a successful business. And we saw 15 examples of the same thing in the same room at the same time. You hear about NGOs and mission groups and things like this basically going into a community and creating a sense of dependence and end up in the end causing more harm than good. And what we see here is the exact opposite of dependence. These people have, with just a little bit of help and a nudge, have become extremely self-sufficient and turning major profits in less than 11 months.
Wow, praise God, that's awesome. Give it to Brenda. For you guys, what has been, we go on these trips, these partner visits, and God grabs your attention and impacts your life personally. What was kind of the personal impact for you?
Well, there's so many things, to be honest, but a couple of them. One, I think just the sense of community, that this was truly a community that we were joining, and they were joining with us. They were welcoming us in. They were encouraging us to, build the relationships, to be involved, and just what a neat feeling and what just a neat environment that we got to be in while we were there. And the other thing was, as I think Tracy talked about, these are parents and guardians who, are just maybe starting to earn some money, and yet their first thought is we're giving to God first. And I think the parent in me was just so convicted by that because, I think more in America we tend to value safety and maybe health and a shirt that doesn't have holes in it and things, and maybe our first thought, my first thought is not always give to God first, and yet these were parents and guardians that were saying God is first, and that faith and that obedience was just very convicting to me.
How about you, Bob? How did God grab your attention, or what?
Well, the sense of community was strong there, and one of the things I noticed, and I have like two strong mental images that last. One is seeing kids with kids and adults with kids, and you'd see little kids being looked after by bigger kids, and bigger kids helping take care of the little ones, and that was all over the place. And contrasting that, one day as we were driving into the care point, and we're driving down this big road, right smack dab in the middle of the road, not on the edge, in the middle of the road was a little girl, maybe 18 months old, all by herself. There wasn't anybody to be seen anywhere, and she was all alone. And for me, it kind of struck an image of people who are in community and people who are not in community, and it struck an image of people who are lost and people who are found. So I'm still.
So that kind of became a visual image of the need for people, for community, for faith, for belonging. It's good. How about you, Emily? How did God speak to you through this trip?
Well, we all were able on the last day that we were there to meet the children that we have a sponsorship with, our friendships with them, which was super cool. But what I recognized was that I was developing relationships with kids all along, and that they're all part of this care point, and that we might be funding one or two children, but it's really not going just to that child, it's going to their family. It's really not just going to their family, it's going to the community. It's helping to create these income generating groups. And so just like we're a faith family that work with our resources to help one another out and support one another, seeing the very same thing in their community. So it just helped me realize that, our $45 a month is going, it's not just for one child in this one family. And you're thinking, but what about the rest of them? It's helping all of them. And each child that we had the opportunity to connect with was just as important to me as the child that, I just got my package for that we're sponsoring. And so it just feels like every time we go, every time, if you have the opportunity to go, you're going to see the same kids. You're going to see the same guardians. You're going to see the same church leaders. And so the relationship goes way beyond your child.
That's great. Tracy, how did God get your attention from this?
For me, it was also relationship, that when we talked about all these great needs they have for the bathroom and everything, when we said, okay, what's your number one, what's first on the list? And again, it was unanimous, and it was we want all our children sponsored. And the unique thing about our care point is all the children financially are sponsored short term, and we're developing relationship with each of them individually, and they know that their care point's up and running, but for them it was they want to know that each of their children has a relationship with a person on the other side of the world that cares for them, writes to them, they might meet them, but prays for them. because the second thing that they wanted, and I'm thinking, okay, you want a bathroom, you want a shower. And the second thing they said was not a shower, it was discipleship training. When we come back, they want us to train them because they have such deep connection and a heart for God, and they want to know more about Jesus, and they want to be trained in that way.
That's great. How about you, John? I mean, this is your second trip. You went in December.
Yeah, so this time I got the opportunity to kind of lead this trip and logistically be involved in the planning through Hope Chest headquarters in Colorado, and Steve and other people here at Watermark. So mistakenly, I took on a lot of this burden and stress of putting this trip together and the planning, coordinating, and I felt it mentally and physically, emotionally leading up to it. And once we got going, God really got my attention in a lot of ways. And throughout this trip, I really learned to just give things like this back to God, because he showed up every moment of every day, whether it was from the ease that customs was in country there, coming back to the States, how all the planning coordination went. It was just a testimony that I need to learn to put my trust and faith back in God in these things and just lay them at his feet, because he showed up every time I had a worry or a stress about something. He showed up. So it was just a constant reminder to me to trust God.
That's awesome. Before I have you guys sit down, let me just talk real quick. On Mother's Day, we did a launch of our partnership there, and I want you to think about this. This is our faith family developing a relationship with a village and a group of people, like a family there, and we're saying we're going to be a family together, and we're going to learn from each other, and we're going to be in this journey together. And we had a launch where we had people get these little cards from that back little area, right? We had these, and many of you, we've got close to 90 now kids out of the 150 we'd love to get a friend with. Many of you filled this out. You started paying the $45 a month for one or more children, and then you took a photo of your family, and then it was sent to Ethiopia, and they had a launch day just like us. And here's all these photos of us up on their wall. There's another photo to go with this, I think. Another one like that. And then they numbered from 1 to whatever, the first 86 at that time to pick. And the kid, whoever had number 1, got to pick. I don't know who that is, but there's Andrew and Carly. There you go. There's your little one. There's the Kerns. Are the Kerns in here? I don't see them. No? Anyway, there's the Kerns. Kaburski's one of the ones that they've sponsored or they have a friendship with. There's the Finchams. There's the Wensleys. And there's a bunch of the kids right there holding up. Now, I just want you to these kids, it wasn't like we found a picture of a kid and said, I want that child. We said, we are open to a friendship with someone. And these kids had a voice, they had a choice to pick your photo and say, I want to be in a relationship with this person. And more than anything, the parents want that for their kids. It's not just about the money, it's about the relationship for them. And so we want to help all 150 to have a relational sponsorship, friendship, connection in that way. We thankfully had some front end money to help us get the whole thing going from another donor, from another church that was like, we want to help with this, but that's a short-term thing, so we want to make that happen. So if you have not yet jumped in to do that, if you haven't given to be a part of that yet, I encourage you to do that. So let's go to the next steps thing real quick here. I think it's number 12. If you want to be a part of that, and join even this guy from Ethiopia who's trying to scrape enough money to do it, go to gerbe.hopechest.org. If you haven't done it yet, do it with your family, do it on your own, whatever. You can grab one of these cards on the back over there. It's got all the information for you. You go on the way left. You say, I want to be a Hope Chest friend. You indicate $45. The next thing is you upload a photo that's sent to Ethiopia. That kid's going to have your photo, and you're going to get a packet of information and start that. So we have a person-to-person partnership with them, but we also have a corporate community-to-community partnership. And to do that, we've got opportunities to help them with things like getting clean water, getting a latrine, getting a shower, things like that in the future. And we'll talk about that during Above and Beyond. The other thing I want to invite you to do, if you go a couple slides into it with the team there, Keegs, the next one, is the team. You are invited, you are encouraged to go. and it's a partner visit. It's not a mission trip, it's a partner visit. And you're going to build a relationship to share with each other. Now, who should go on a trip like this? I would say if you're a middle schooler and up and with a parent, that'd be incredible. Kids would be incredible because they connect with other kids in a way no adult can. And so, but John, any wisdom on like who should go on a trip like this?
Yeah, actually, Children's Soap Chest is pretty unique in my mind, being fairly new to this whole partnership visit thing. What's cool about this is they invite everybody. So if you look at the 5 of us up here, we're a pretty diverse group: social work, science teacher, police officer. They want us to bring our skills, individual skills. So all of you out there that's ever been curious about going on a trip like this and you think you might not have the skills or the ability, I promise you, you do. Because if you have the ability to open your mouth and engage in a conversation and build a relationship with a person, that's all that is required. It's simple. So for me, for example, as a police officer, I could bring maybe certain safety and security skills into their leadership in the community there. You know, you saw Bob use his science background this trip. Brenda with his social work and really connecting with the kids on a different level than I can. So it's really open to everybody and bringing your unique set of skills to the Care Point to invest into their community.
I want to pass it down to Bob because I heard his story of how he decided to go, which I thought was really honest of you, Bob, with your wife Jan, how she helped encourage you to go. So for someone here who's like, I just don't know if I should go, I'm not, tell a little bit of your story real quickly.
So John asked me back in February if I'd wanted to go, and my mind was like pretty much instantly, nope, don't want to, nope. I drug my feet on it. I didn't say anything to him about it. I didn't say anything to Jan about it. And there was a deadline, and I passed it, and John was kind of like pushing me to give him a yes or a no. And I went and talked to my wife one time, and I said, okay, John's asking for a decision on this. And I was expecting her to say, yeah, don't go. And she said, you need to go. And I was blown away. Didn't expect that. And I'm like, why do you think I need to go? And she said, because things are going your way. Basically, you've got pretty good control of your life right now. Everything's working your way. Your career's rolling along. Things at home are rolling along. And you need to get into a place where you're outside your comfort zone and you're not in control. And, for me, even not controlling the trip was weird. To not be the one leading it was different. So I just let go and went, and I had a really impacting time.
It's awesome. We'll put on the screen how, if you're interested, if you want to just say, I'm interested in learning more, I want to just know more about this trip, you're not committing. The dates are March 28th to April 6th, give or take a day on the front end or back end. It's the first full week before spring break for you area school people. It's the first full week before spring break and bleeds into a little bit of spring break, but it's roughly around March 28th to April 6th. And I would encourage you, if God's nudging you to consider it, go to wm.church /Ethiopia and be a part of that. Let's pray together. God, we thank you for being a God who meets us where we are. Thank you for our friends in Shoney. Today, God, we have an opportunity to learn together about our friends in a place that many of us have never been. People that we may or may never meet, and yet we're brothers and sisters, and we'll spend eternity with them. And we just thank you for the opportunity, just even now in this life, in this moment, to be able to rub shoulders alongside them and learn and love and be together in this journey. And so, God, would you bless our friends and family in Shoney, Gerbe, and God, would you lead us and guide us to be involved, to sponsor, to develop that friendship, to go, to give, to pray, or just even in our own backyard, to go into the prison, to go across the street, and just to follow wherever you lead us, especially if it takes us out of our comfort zone and into your plans. In Jesus' name. And everyone said, amen. Let's give it up for the team. You guys can go sit up there. I want to just close our time out. Just so proud of our team, and excited about that partnership we've developed, and thank you for letting us have a whole day to talk about that as we initiate that. Next week is really special. Do not come here next week, right? Because what do we have? Jesse's already told you. Baptism. We're at the beach day, right? So come, I would bring like a chair for the beach or a blanket. The water's so high that you could probably even be on the sidewalk for some of us, and if you get there early. But we go at 10 o'clock, one gathering time at one place, the beach, for baptism. And who is baptism for? If you have been having this burden, you're a follower of Jesus, whether you've been a follower of Jesus for 25 years or this is your first moment and you want to say yes to Jesus and you're saying, I want people to know baptism is for you. And so I encourage you to go to wm.church, click the baptism thing. We would love for you to follow the example, the teaching, the way of Jesus, and get baptized, whether you're a 25-year-old Christian, been a Christian for a long time, or just brand new. So love for you to go there, be a part of it. Otherwise, next week, do not come here, 10 a.m., join us on the beach. We'll see you.